It's gonna get better. Never stay the same. It's gonna get better. It's gonna get better.
Hello and welcome to the Ericka James Show, where we are all about life on purpose. We are going to talk about knowing your identity today, and I am so excited. But first, let me tell you a little bit about the show and what we're up to today in today's episode. I'm taking years of my transformational work, my speaking, my training, and the gift of the prophetic to really help us walk in our purpose. I have spent the last 30 years of my life leading and guiding thousands of people to become the fullness of who they were created to be. Stick with me and we're going to get there. So excited. But I want to tell you where this journey started for me. It really started about the age of 12. And I remember I got my very first journal. And it was burgundy, it had lines on it, it was cloth covered, it was so cute, it had little yellow and white flowers on it. And the very first poem I wrote in that journal went something like this. You are unique. In all the history of the world, there's never been anyone quite like you. At the age of 12, those weren't just words in a journal to me. I started to take them seriously. And I committed my life to answering two questions. Who am I? And what was I created to do? I am solely committed to living all out. I have a real vision of not leaving anything on the table, and I want to challenge us to do the same. One of the things we're going to be talking about on the show today is about knowing your identity. This is a huge one. This is something that I get to work with individuals with all the time, and it's about understanding that you are not your past. It's about understanding that there is something locked in your DNA, that when we get to unlock it, you are literally going to be crystal clear. It was predestined. And oftentimes we spend our lives looking over here for our identity, over there. I certainly know I did. I thought it came from my family, thought it came from my friends, thought it came from titles, thought it came from external looks. It's crazy when you look at the statistics, because 51% of people do not know their identity. And when we go back to the teenage years where a lot of that is formulated, only 61% of teenagers, actually 61% of teenagers say they don't have a clue about who they are. And what I've learned in those formative years, when we're teenagers, we make some decisions. And a lot of times we live the rest of our lives out of those decisions. And oftentimes they're not even true. So this process has been a lifelong process for me to know who I am and now get to build something extraordinary. And I'm so excited that you're with me to do that today. I want to talk about a couple different types of identity. These are Ericka-isms. You're going to hear me talk about Ericka-isms. So I have what I call your horizontal identity. And that's your identity. If you had a horizontal line and it was from you right now backwards, a lot of times we are looking back to our past, and I call it duct taping. We're duct taping together our identity. And far too often, you all, our little hearts get wounded, we get brokenness on the way, and we kind of put that in with the duct tape, and it all kind of limps forward to be who we think we are. But I want to submit to you that it's much deeper than that. I want to just have you think for a moment, what if we could understand that literally locked within us is the answer to everything we need? If we would just spend the time to do the work, to look within, to really spend that quiet time. I am huge about quiet time. I can't say that enough. Actually, for years, I thought I was an extrovert because I love people. I thought that was the definition of extrovert. And then I had a psychologist friend of mine say, oh no, Ericka, you're either introvert or extrovert based on where you get your energy. And so I love getting refueled, rejuvenated in quiet time. So that is one of my life mantras you're going to hear me remind you about over and over again. There is so much spinning around us right now. There is so much happening in the world right now. I truly believe that if you and I could truly tap in to that power and that greatness that was placed within us, that we could release something that would change the world. Every single, not some of them, but every single issue that we see in the world right now, it's locked within us. We hold the solution locked within us, I should say. So as I mentioned, that horizontal identity is not who you really are. And I call it the vertical identity, that identity that we have to connect upwards with our creator, whatever you call your creator, but wherever you are, it's about tapping in to that higher purpose because you were created with a specific blueprint in mind. We're going to talk about how we do that, but I want you to know first what is possible. So I want you to just imagine, it doesn't take long to turn on the news right now and see everything that is happening. The answer is within us. We can often look over here and say, well, why don't they do this? Or why don't this group of people do that? But the answer is within you. And it's about taking that key and unlocking it. So I'm so excited about this topic of knowing your identity. Because when we understand that inside of us is a treasure map, the world wants to call it mindfulness, where you just stop and get centered and come back to remembering who you are. It is a real process. I do it every single night. Every single night I stop and I'm like, okay, let me shake off the day, let me shake off the circumstances. How am I doing? What's really going on? And then, how am I going to realign with who I'm created to be? And I want to offer you a question. Every morning when you get up, before you set your feet on the ground, before you go to brush your teeth, whatever your morning routine is, what if you asked yourself, what can I do today to close the gap? Close the gap between where you are right now and who you were created to be. But first, we have to know our identity. But it's in there. When we take away the circumstances, we take away the stress, we take away the obligations, we peel back all of those things, and we start to say, wait a minute, who am I? What are the things I love? What are the things I'm really good at? We're going to talk about all of this. But first, I want you to know your identity comes from God, not from the world, not even from your family. That life experience you had, it equipped you to do what you're called to do and walk out your purpose. But it wasn't meant to define you. And when we begin to loose those shackles and uncover the fullness of who we're created to be, life becomes unstoppable. Imagine your life, so exciting, so passionate, that the hard part is to stop. Like, well, I've got to stop for a minute because I've got to take care of my family. I've got to do this over here. But you actually are so enthralled and engaged in who you were called to be and what you're called to build that, your passion's ignited. So that's what knowing your identity does for you. And yes, it is possible, no matter what you've been through. So when we come back, we're going to talk about 3 power steps, specific steps that you can implement right away to get going on uncovering, realizing, or even taking your identity to the next level. So we can actually walk in, I'm just going to call it your extraordinary. And most of all, build something extraordinary. So stay with me. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Ericka James Show. Today's show is all about knowing your identity. But as I promised earlier, I'm going to give you specific steps that you can actually implement right away that's going to take your life, your purpose, your calling to the next level. So, power step number 1 is understand. Understand that you are not your past. I'm going to say that again. Understand that you're not your past. What ends up happening so many times is we duct tape together experiences from our past and call it our identity. I've been through this is what I got from my family identity, had a couple of betrayals, some wounds, and we say this is who I am. It's what you have been through, but it is not who you are. I submit to you that who you are was already determined before you were even born. And our job in our lives is to uncover it, is to walk it out, and then to align it So understand that you are not your past, whatever you have been through. It was to help live and help make a difference in the world for other people. It is not God's intention for us to stay stuck in our past, stay stuck in our struggle, stay stuck in the negative self-talk you may have picked up along the way. It is about understanding your identity is more than your past. Your past is there to help you make it happen, but it's not who you are. Power step number 2 is to release. We're going deep, but this one is about releasing emotional wounds and past disappointments. And we all have them. I am one of those heart people that is always getting my little heart hit, broken. It was happening. I'm stuttering right now because it's so deep, but it had happened all of my life where I always loved so deeply, felt so deeply. And so I learned over the years that if I don't learn how to heal this heart, I'm just not going to be able to get anything done. I would literally spend time crying in the morning, like, get yourself together, as I was a teenager. And I was defining myself through my family, defining myself through my friends, defining myself in other ways, as we talked about earlier. But once you begin to do the work of releasing past emotional wounds and disappointments, your heart stops feeling heavy. I remember the day I got my heart back. I started doing what I call heart work. And one day I was sitting there going, I got my heart back. Pieces of my disappointment, pieces of my pain, they weren't in that heart anymore. And so you really want to spend some time. You guys always hear me saying this, spend quiet time. That actually is power step number 3, which is ask. But I want you to ask in that quiet time. I want you to start to ask deeper questions. Ask your heart, how is it feeling? What's going on? What are you carrying? What am I still holding on to? What have I interwoven my identity with that was just something I went through? It's not who I was. And so you get to sit and ask. Ask yourself, how are you really doing? I get it. There's so much happening in our lives. We're lucky if we can sometimes get a shower or a bath by ourselves, right? Well, actually, I do hope you're showering and bathing by yourself. But what I mean is the time to shower and bathe and getting to spend that time with yourself to tap in. But it is possible. You have to be intentional. You have to set time aside for it. And it really goes back to that mindset of purpose that I keep talking about, that your purpose becomes your priority. This is what I've learned. When we put our purpose first, everything else falls into place. When we put our purpose first, it ignites you in a way that you become unstoppable, unshakable, and immovable. So let's talk about those power steps one more time. Understand that you are not your past. Number 2, release those emotional wounds and those disappointments from your past. I know what you're thinking. I've been trying to do that, Ericka. I've really been trying, but what am I doing wrong? Or how do I really do that? I have an exercise for you. I want you to sit down in that time that you're doing power step number 3 and you're asking and checking in with your heart. And I really want you to just take a look, take a feel, I should say. And I call it squatting in your heart. Who or what is squatting in your heart? Who is there from your past? Who are you still attaching emotional pain, emotional wounds to, and disappointments, you all? Our hearts go through so many disappointments. And so I really want you to sit and feel that. And then I want you to write down the name. Who comes up for you? Is it a family member? Is it an ex-lover? Is it just an ex? Who is it? Is it a former friend? Is it someone currently in your life? Sometimes the wounds that we suffer the most are with people that we do life with every day. Whoever it is, I want you to write it down. And one of the things I've learned is once we write it down, you want to get clear about what we're holding on to around that particular person. And I really just invite you to sit with that for a minute. What wounds are you still holding on to? Was it something they said, something they did? Maybe it was an absence. The absence of somebody can be almost as powerful as a painful presence. And so I want you to just sit down and say, okay, who's still squatting in my heart? And what am I holding on to? And then you get to forgive them. You literally get to release them. I call it decreeing and declaring your forgiveness. I'm going to do a whole show on this, but I just want you to get these steps, because if you can knock these out in the power steps now, it begins that process of transformation. And then I want you to ask, in your quiet time, just ask, what would your life be like if you weren't carrying that pain? Who would I be if this didn't happen to me? And when we start to ask ourselves those inquiries, guess what? We start to uncover our true identity. Who would I be if I still wasn't carrying the damage from that particular time in your life? That's who you're called to be. That's who you're purposed to be. That's who you were created to be. And that's what we want to tap into all day, every day, and live from that amazing place of knowing your identity. Remember what I said earlier, not your horizontal identity, the one that looks back, but I want you to tap into that identity that looks up. So excited that we can do this work together, you all, and we are going to go there. So stick with me. We're going someplace. When we come back, I'm actually going to share a little bit more about how you can tap into this gift of prophetic that we have through the Holy Spirit. And how do we begin to activate it in a way that can help us right here and right now stay on track and align our lives with the person God created us to be. So stay with me. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Ericka James Show. Today we are talking all about knowing your identity. So I went over the 3 power steps earlier, but guess what? It's time for the prophetic. I need background music for that one. I get so excited. So if you're not familiar with the prophetic, it really is a gift from God to hear his voice, to feel his heart, and to be able to utilize that to help people live better and more effectively. And I'm so excited to share the prophetic gift with you today. I really thought hard about not doing this. I was like, can I take the prophetic to television? But then I remembered that mediums do it, psychics do it, so we are not hiding the prophetic, y'all. We have some words that want to get through, and so I'm so glad to be able to offer my gift to individuals. And this really opened up for me, gosh, probably 15 years ago. A friend of mine, a BK, so grateful for this word, but he brought me a prophetic word out in Seattle when I was living there, and he said that the Lord was going to open up a prophetic mantle in me. I was like, what? A mantle? I literally had to look it up and found out that a mantle is really a special anointing, you might have heard that word, or an empowerment from God. And after that, it was on. My hearing was wide open and really began to test and refine the prophetic. And so I'm so excited to be able to bring it to you today. We have a special guest with us. I did a session with her I want to share with you. Tamara is coming to us, and she is going to share some questions that she wants to know to really help her understand where she is in this season, and then really, how do you get to your next level? Take a look. So I'm so excited. Thank you for being here. You are on episode 2 of my show, which is all about knowing your identity. So I'm just ecstatic that you're here. So have you had the prophetic before? Have you received?
I have.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not like, wow, some people are like, I've never had that before.
No.
Awesome. So I'm ready for your questions, and you're going to see me. I have a note. God's already given me some stuff for you, but I'm going to probably be looking down in a second, kind of scribbling. So just know I'm just receiving and downloading to grab the thoughts. So I'm ready for your questions. I'm just going to write them down.
Okay. Several months ago, the Lord told me after we got hit with this pandemic that I'm a consultant, which threw me. I saw myself as a consultant. I saw myself as a teacher or a speaker. That hasn't happened yet, but I mean, a completely different path. And then he told me I'm a consultant. So I was like, okay. So then I guess what I wanted to know is, did I hear from him, or was that just my brain? Did I hear from him? And if I did, with the way that I have moved forward now, am I on track? Number 2 goes right into the other one. So if this is it, will this propel me to a financial breakthrough soon?
Ah.
And if it is, not, then what do I do?
So the first thing I got was God said that even though it has taken longer than you thought it would, his promises are still coming to pass. He said they are yours and yours alone, and no giving up on any. And he had that all caps, like any of them. And he was showing me that you started to filter, like, okay, well, I that was a dream of mine. Well, I'll put that on the shelf. That, that doesn't look like it's going to happen, so I'll set that back. And we'll. But he's saying no, all of them are yours, and those were from him to you, and no giving up on any of them. Then he said something about more humor. He was showing me that you have a crazy sense of humor and you need to laugh more because you get in your head too much. And
Okay.
so just like putting yourself more in scenarios and situations that you laugh more. He's saying it's really important in this season because it's going to be medicine for your soul, but more laughter. And he's saying you need more laughter in your life. And then for some reason he told me, and this I'll probably filter this right into the questions, that you like the finer things, and he placed that in you. And so don't put that, like, don't go, oh gosh, am I just vain? And for some reason, he showed me a dining room table. Like, you have a dining room table, and yeah, you just eat on it, but you're like, no, I want this dining room table because it is an experience. And that you have a gift of creating experience for people. And this might go right into, but I'm just going to bring you this part first. He was showing me that this ability of yours to create, it's an entire like sensual experience with all of your senses, with the spiritual experience, that he's going to have you create a line of products around that bring experience in. I saw beauty products. I saw houseware products. He was showing me there's things that you have in mind, and you'll go to the store and you're like, I can't find the right ingredients, or why hasn't anybody created this? He wants you to bring some of that stuff back up, not some of it, all of it back off the shelf. When we were praying, I heard clearly, and now she rises. So this is your time to rise. I see you moving upward like a balloon, like a hot air balloon that's just kicking off the tethers and going higher and higher. And there's been so many tethers, like as soon as you get something taken care of, then another tether comes and it's like, But he said, this is your season, and now she rises. And the rising is not a hard rising. It's not okay, now I got to plow to rise. No. It's a lifting of weight. It's a lifting. I see him cutting things from your past off that have caused you to be grounded. And this is a season and now she rises. It is your season to rise. And so he said, when you talked about consultant, that just rang in my spirit, because the only difference between a speaker and a trainer and a consultant is that you're going in for a fee, consulting people on something specific. And he said, you have great wisdom, and people that are in your world frequently ask you of this wisdom. And so I'm asking him, feels like there's more leaning in on that. I want to know a little bit more about what area you're supposed to consult in. He said it has to do with bringing this experience, like bringing this whole experience to people. And he's going to use it across different companies, across different people, not different people, but different businesses, different small businesses, different organizations. You have a gift of creating certain experiences for people, mind, body, and soul. He said that your wisdom is greater than you think, and to give yourself credit, give yourself more credit for the wisdom that you carried. It's part of what feels like it's taken so long. He just had to dig you deeper because there's a broader width of wisdom that you carry. It's not any one thing.
Right.
And it's many things. And then, did I hear him, or was it just my brain? You heard him. Yes, you are to consult. You are to become what would be considered in the marketing world a brand. And you are the brand. You have just because I'm a speaker, I'm seeing a one-sheeter. You literally package yourself in a way that people are like, we need what she has. And that's all a consultant does. And being intentional. He's saying no more waiting for speaking engagements to come to you. He wants you to be intentional, to really begin to share this wisdom, this experience, creating, I don't know what you would call it. It's a mixture of things.
Well, what I have in mind, it's a workshop.
Okay.
It's a, I mean, it's a workshop to teach it, but for them, it's a full day experience, and it's to work up to this full day experience so that they can tap into who they are, what they want to do with their life.
Oh, that's good. And he wants you to market it to corporations, like to consult it. And how can they integrate this into their workplace? How can they integrate some of these pieces? And he said, stop it. Stop doubting that they'll pay you and that you can go in. They will pay you for it. All you have to do is let them know, like name it. The same way you would put a workshop on for individuals, he wants you to market that as a consultant to organizations and corporations, and they will pay you handsomely for it.
Wow.
Which, so you asked, is this him? Are you on track? Has he guided you to go? Is this him or not? He actually said yes or no. The part that is him is what he wants you to do, but he wants you to do it faster. The part that you've, like the fear, the doubt, the second guessing, that is not him, that is you. But the purpose of what he's calling you into is absolutely him. And he's saying you could consult somebody on this. If someone came to you, was like, hey, Tamara, I want to set this up. What do I do? You actually could tell them exactly what to do. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Have you done this? And he says, do that for yourself. But it is absolutely to call resources forth to you. But where the resources are, he's showing me checks with thousands of dollars. And I'm not like the old financial prosperity prophet, but it is what's next for you.
It's nice to hear that all this is, it's just amazing to me. It's like the scripture says, all things work together for good. But everything is all working together, not just the things he wants you to do, but you as a person, me as a person. All these different things over the years are, they show that they all do work together. And humor, that was great what you said, because I love to laugh. I love to laugh.
Awesome. Well,
Thank you.
I'm so glad that resonates. Thank you so much for showing up and just, asking those questions. I love that. I'm like, I don't know what people are going to ask, but we're going to put it out there. It is time. You understand you've been doing the work. It's just time for it to go. So I get it. Wasn't that awesome? I hope that was a blessing for you and a reminder that you have within you a blueprint that can help you get to your next level. So as powerful as it was for Tamara, I hope that you got some snippets that you could relate to. And remember to spend some quiet time. Do your power steps. Remember, number 1, understand. Number 2, release. And number 3, ask. I don't want you just to exist or live based on your past. I want you to live based on your purpose. I want to see you thrive. I want to see you do better, be better, and live better. Now is the time to just dig in, lean in, and let's take your purpose to the next level. Remember, I'm here right with you every step of the way to remind you that you are extraordinary. And most of all, let's do something and build something extraordinary. I'll see you next time.